Today I'm going to disclose the greatest scandal in American history. If you take all of these scandals that this country has lived through from its founding until now and roll them into one package, they would not exceed both the financial and the social disaster that has occurred in this nation as a result of the single administration, the Biden administration. I'm talking about mass immigration on a level never seen before, not only in American history, but in world history. Now, I am the son of an immigrant. You say, well, big deal. Well, if it's no big deal to you, then turn off the show. I could care less whether the fact that for many years I've been preaching borders, language, and culture as the defining elements of a nation. Long before anyone else understood that a nation is defined by its borders, language, and culture, I was doing so. Many people flocked to me in San Francisco and then throughout America. And now I am on YouTube occasionally, as I am now, on Newsmax twice a week, and I have two great podcasts, 2 or 3 a week. Now, I want to read something to you from page 50 of my most important book, A Savage Republic, because it's very important you hear this, because it tells you the whole story of what's behind it. And here is what I wrote. Today's globalists are doing the same thing to the United States and Europe. They dupe the population, meaning you and your parents, maybe your daughter and your son, into supporting this tyrannical scheme by whipping up sympathy for the destitute migrants, many of whom are worthy of sympathy, but whom America simply cannot support in unlimited numbers. Let's not forget that there are billions of dollars being made off the border invasion. Billions of dollars being made off the border invasion. You know, there was an old saying about the missionaries in Hawaii who wound up stealing the land, that the Christian missionaries came to Hawaii to do good, and they did very well indeed. Well, the same would apply here. The bleeding heart liberals who tell you that they're doing it for the good of the immigrants while spitting in your face, ruining our nation with diseased and criminal immigrants. I don't know where they're working. Have you seen any of them working? I don't know where they're working. I ask people, I ask Hispanic people who have been here a while. No one knows where they're working. No one sees them. So let me begin at the beginning. The man who started it all, my grandfather Sam, in front of his own little tailor shop at 548 East 13th Street, New York City. This is the story of a man who came here with very little money in his pocket and left with very little money in his pocket, but with a broken heart. He died at age 48 after killing himself, coming here and bringing over his 2 children after slaving here for 9 years and sending money back home. And he worked his way up from being, I don't know what he did in the tailor shop, to making fine suits. He made the suits with his hands. He sewed suits. You know how hard that is? I don't. I can't even sew a button on a shirt. And then he died at 48, and that was that. When I see these vermin coming to this country from prisons, from jail cells, infected with diseases. There's no Ellis Island anymore. Remember the movie The Godfather, where little Vito Corleone was put into isolation because he had a cough or diphtheria. I don't know what he had, smallpox. And they made him stay in isolation till the disease was cured or disappeared. How many of these vermin coming over the border to vote for Joe Biden and to suck us dry for Catholic charities and the Hebrew Immigration Aid Society and Lutheran Family Services and all of the vermin who are collecting money off it? These are all criminals. These are all criminal organizations. Al Capone, I think, said, a gangster of the 1930s, that you can steal more money with a fountain pen than you can with a gun. You can steal more money with a fountain pen than you can with a gun. Well, Joe Biden, through his executive orders, has enabled this to happen to an extent that you will never believe, never. And let me give you some facts, not just hyperbole. I will go back to the beginning of why this is happening. Not only is it a financial boon for the organizations that we will disclose today on this podcast, but there's a socialist reason for it. Let us go back to the European Union. Remember, there was no EU 25 years ago. But the European Union, so-called, was the beginning of the end for national borders. They erased the borders. And when you erase the borders between the European nations, the countries were suddenly flooded with Muslims from the Middle East and Africans from the deepest jungles of Africa, most of whom are uneducated, and it resulted in vast increases in crime and abuses of the welfare system. Since Biden and his team of lunatics are now copying the socialist EU model to the nth degree, they envision a world without borders where everyone just gets along, where we all wear little blue uniforms with little blue hats with little red stars on them, where everyone is equal and there is no income inequality, where everyone drives state issued electric vehicles, if we drive anything at all, where we all use state issued iPhones monitored by state officials at Apple headquarters, where we all read one newspaper, the state newspaper, and watch one TV channel run by Big Sis. But who is making money off this? An important article came out in the last few days in the Daily Wire, based on the Daily Signal. And I had heard about the Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society bubbling up from the surface on social media and its connection to our Homeland Security Director, Alejandro Mayorkas. But I didn't know if it was true. I thought maybe it was anti-Semitism from the usual suspects who hate Jews. Well, as it turns out, no, this is unfortunately true. Because on the face of it, these NGOs, these non-governmental organizations, which allegedly represent Jewish, Catholic, and Protestant Christian faiths, they rake in billions of dollars in taxpayer money as they create a highway, a superhighway, from Central America to the Rio Grande and the Sonoran Desert, which is the doorstep into the United States of America. The Conservative Heritage Foundation called it a, quote, corrupt money-changing circle, unquote, in which we, the taxpayers, are funding, quote, migration weaponization used against America's interests. Are you following me so far? So they put the spotlight on the Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society, HIAS, and you'll never believe this. This is what they disclosed. They said the Department of Homeland Security Secretary, Alejandro Mayorkas, who has overseen this border invasion for the unprecedented surge of millions of illegal immigrants, is one of its previous board members. Did you hear this? The Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society planted one of their board members into the Department of Homeland Security, which oversees the Border Patrol, if you can believe this. HIAS wrote this when Biden was nominated, quote, he knows that America is at its greatest when we build bridges, not walls. That's what the Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society wrote in its endorsement of Joe Biden. Now, in 2022, HIAS had a revenue of $149 million, chicken feed by today's standards. But they offer a wide range of services to illegal immigrants, both before and after they enter the United States. It provides maps at their facilities, maps showing illegal immigrants how to come through the treacherous Darien Gap. They work with a number of criminal organizations called partner organizations, other NGOs, to resettle these illegal immigrants once they come into America and put them into these hotel rooms and give them all sorts of benefits. They actually give these illegal leeches cash assistance once they've come across the border. Can you believe this? This organization, HIAS, openly advocates for the United States to increase its resettlement program of illegal immigrants without any checks on disease or criminal background. This organization, according to the Daily Signal, discovered that flyers instructed migrants or illegal aliens to vote for Biden. They found these at a facility on the Mexican side of the U.S. border. Catholic Charities, USA, Church World Services, and Global Refuge, which used to be known as the Lutheran Immigration and Refugee Services, they rebranded. It's no longer Lutheran Immigration and Refugee Services. The gangsters who run it renamed it Global Refuge. They're among the religiously affiliated NGOs leveraging taxpayer dollars. And now you know the rest of the story with regard to where the illegal immigrants are coming from, who is letting them in. what kind of money is involved, and the fact that you're not going to stop it until people are held accountable for this. You met the NGOs facilitating this mass flooding of America under the banner of religion. You've heard the fact just now on this little broadcast that the dissolution of borders, which began with the European Union, has now infested and infected the United States of America. And you have heard that No Borders Biden is now the man carrying the ball to destroy the United States of America under the guise of compassion for these so-called migrants. There is nothing more I have to say at this time. Sometimes less is more. I have given you everything you need to know to go and vote for, well, what's the good of voting? What is the good of voting when you hear that the fox is inside the chicken coop? The fox is inside the chicken coop, eating the chickens. The border guards have been neutralized, deballed, destroyed. Our border patrol has been eliminated under Joe Biden. Our borders have been erased. And there is more money being made on illegal immigration than on the smuggling of drugs. And everyone is in on it, from the Vatican to the local church. This is Michael Savage with the saddest story of my life. And you could take that to the bank.